What would you like first? The good news or the bad news?
Go
Yep.
for the bad news
No, I'm
first,
going to
Dean.
give you the good news first. I don't know. It was kind
Okay.
of a rhetorical thing.
All right.
Well, the good news is coming into this game, we were on the other show. We were talking today about how the line of Stone, Barbashev, and Eichel, highest scoring line in the league, 17 points, 9 games, 15. This whole thing, best start ever for Barbashev. Off the score sheet, pretty much. Eichel got an assist. There was a goal but I mean, really, kind of kept this top line in check.
That's good, Dean. What's the bad news? What's the bad
They
news?
couldn't contain their fourth line. Just got they got absolutely snot bubbled by the Kolasar, Waugh, and Schwint line.
I'm not familiar with the last name.
Yeah, not many are. Not many are.
I don't.
Welcome to Afterburner. It's boom. It's Gould as a humbling 5-0 defeat at the hands of the Vegas Golden Knights in a game that never felt close.
No.
Never felt close. The first note I have written down, outmatched considerably, is the first thing that I wrote down. And then Kadri takes a shot off the foot, and then it's Pietrangelo 1-0, and then Pahal turnover and 2-0. I just put, this is a mess. They were getting out at mid-second face-offs, 68% was going to the Vegas Golden Knights. And then there was the shots thing that which we can talk about. We'll get into it. It's been trending towards this. It's the third straight loss. They did get the win against Pittsburgh, and then you go back to, I mean, I fear that this is what we're going to be in for moving forward. Do you?
Well, I mean, the last time that we were on the show together, we kind of finished it all off by saying, we were talking about how you can tell when a team's about to end a winning streak, by how they're playing at the end of it. And we could sort of see it coming. And the results since haven't been very pretty. And, it just goes back to that old Arizona Cardinals coach rant. They are who we thought they were. And they sure are. Because what were the shots tonight? 36-15. And they had a lot of power plays. They just didn't do anything on. They put the lines in a blender in the third period. I think Ryan Huska was trying to just sort of experiment with anything. I wouldn't be surprised if at the second intermission he put up a dartboard and just kind of threw whatever he could have at it, whatever he could get, because those are not combinations that you expect to see with Huberdeau with Ryan Lomberg and Kevin Rooney with
but
it's what it is, right? Like, it's a game where you're losing, eventually 5-0, and you're getting Cole Schwint stunting on you a little bit, and it is what it is. It's not dissimilar to what we expected, I think.
I'm not great at math. It's always my thing. Pinder gives it to me on the other show. So 4-2 against the Canes, 5-3 Jets, 5-0 Vegas. It's too many goals. And I, listening to the guys in the broadcast, Dan Vladar, he's been down, but hey, when you got to score 6 or 5 every night, you are in a tough spot. And I don't know. You had the Flames on one end who were not very good, and you had Vegas, who obviously was pretty good. You get 5-0, and then, but I don't know on a good night what the Flames how they would fare against Vegas. Last year, I think they 3-0-1. I think in the 4 games against Vegas, they that was not happening in this one. We'll get into some of our sponsors. I'm not putting it on Vladar. That pizza guy's like, you're not trying to put this on Vladar. But the thing with Vladar is, I think he plays well, but yet it seems like when he plays, you're having to score considerable amounts of goals in order to win. His save percentage is never that great. I always feel like the actual hard data is better than the eye test, or is worse than the eye test with Vladar. I feel like he looks strong. He looks like competent. He looks like he's playing very well. And then you look at everything else. It's like, geez, I feel like these should be better based on what I'm watching, but they rarely are.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like an analog. It almost like reminds me of, I don't know, Jake Allen, like back when he was with St. Louis, just a goalie who everybody kept saying, this guy's got all the skill, he's got all the talent to be a starter, and then you watch him and you see the numbers in the end, and they're just never really quite there. I mean, I think it's been a little bit disingenuous to Dustin Wolf that the goaltending has been considered sort of a back and forth scenario this year, because Wolf's numbers are way, way better, and they have been pretty much all along. But I wouldn't put it on Vladar. It's just I think it's less so that Vladar has been playing poorly, and I do agree with the people in the chat. I guess he got hung out to dry, but it's just that Wolf's been that good. I think that's where the disparity lies between the two of them. So, but I don't think the Flames by any means win this game if Wolf is in net.
No, I don't either.
It's maybe a difference between a 5-0 game and a 3-0 game.
Yeah. Richmond's Pub on board is one of the great sponsors of Afterburner. We are going to be there next week. Get ready for it. The Montreal Canadiens and the team in Calgary. It's going to be a road game. It's going to be a 5:00 start, and we're going to be at Richmond's Pub doing Afterburner live, watching the game. Would love for you to join us. It's our home away from home. Awesome food, daily specials, TVs everywhere. It's your place for game day. The NFL VIP experience almost coming to a close. Every Thursday in October, you watch a Thursday night football game. You could qualify to get into the grand prize, and then the final Thursday, they're going to take one of those lucky qualifiers and send them off to San Francisco. Your flight, your hotel, 2 tickets, $500 in spending cash. Let's go and watch the Niners. Be there on Thursdays. And starting very soon in November, it's the NHL VIP experience. So a big new prize coming up next month. If it's a Calgary game day, you got your Coors Light, your Coors Original, your Coors Seltzer, and of course the Barn Burner Blonde. Great supporters of the product. Appreciate it. Richmond's Pub. Sports live here, 3919 Richmond Road in the heart of Glamorgan. We can, I'm trying to go back and think
of things that happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just felt like they were up to their ears in it right from the beginning. The shot, the second period, when you started to realize 6 shots, isn't that what they had after the first? And the clock keeps ticking and ticking and ticking. And then you go back into the so the last shot in the first period came with 5:41 left, Zary, and then it looked like there was a shot or two, but they didn't register as shots on goal. They went about 23 and a half minutes without a shot on net. Not surprised to see things go into the blender in the third. I don't know that we see these necessarily show up for the Utah game, but I wonder if at the base of it, at the core, if it was taking Zary and putting him back with Pospisil and, did I say Zary? Kadri with Zary and Pospisil, which is kind of what happened last year at whatever it was, the 5, 8, 10 game mark, whatever it was. Those two joined up with Kadri, and that line took off. And I wonder if everything else was just kind of a trickle down from there.
Yeah, it's possible. I thought Zary stood out in a positive way for most of the game. I thought he was the only skater on the team who was anything close to being consistent.
Yeah.
I wonder why they aren't putting him at center, to be honest with you. I think with all the guys who they have on the wings and how much noise has been made about them needing help at center, this is a guy who they had drafted as a center, who played in the American League as a center, and who for the last couple of games here, in my view, has been the only one who's really been skating with any authority, any confidence, making plays with the puck, carrying the puck into the middle, even though he's been starting shifts on the wing. So, it might not even matter if he starts as a center or a winger or not. But I think if you're looking for a guy who sort of fills that void for you, I mean, he hasn't just been their best forward. I think he's been their best skater, and I thought he was good again tonight. Even and he stood out in comparison because so many of the players on the Flames just didn't show up. I mean, you can count, on two hands the number of skaters who just were completely non-factors tonight. And I don't want to single really anybody out, but I mean, I'll leave that to you. But
I was thinking, I'm glad we don't do a player of the game or, hardest working Flame or something like that, because that would be a hell of a task to figure that out tonight. But I'm with you. I thought that it was Zary every time. That's the other thing that I kind of had written down is he's still pushing. It's 3-0, it's 4-0, it's 5-0. He was still out there pushing. Meanwhile, Huberdeau's having a nice little yuck in front of the net with Aiden Hill. This is not going to do anything for the Mantha.
The anti-Mantha
crowd that is out there.
He was awful tonight.
So the lines in the third, just for what it was worth, and I don't know how much stock you put into it, but
None.
they move Pospisil back to the wing with Kadri and Zary, Backlund with Coleman, and then Kirkland takes Zary's spot. Sharangovich back to the middle with Huberdeau and Lomberg. And then, yes, it would look like the Kuzmenko Mantha demotions to the fourth line with Rooney. I don't know if it's a demotion or if that's just, like you say, it all kind of trickles down. But taking Pospisil away from the center spot, it was Sharangovich who goes back in. And either way, it still feels like whether it's Pospisil or Sharangovich or Zary, somebody's probably not, as of right now, in their natural position of center. So somebody's going to there's some growing pains somewhere.
It was a game where nobody really looked that good to me, and it's tough to really make any big sweeping observations from a game like this. I thought Sharangovich had a couple of good looks, for a guy who just came back.
Yeah.
But you really have to rack your brains. I mean, it was a game where even the guys who have looked good this year, like guys like Pahal, didn't look good, and that's there's not much you can take away from that. There are going to be games like this, and you just kind of have to move on. I mean, they just came through a 3-game stretch where they're playing against, Carolina, Winnipeg, 2 very, very successful teams so far. Vegas, a team that actually entered this game 29th in the NHL in 5-on-5 expected goals percentage, ahead of only Detroit, Montreal, and Anaheim. But they've won all their games at home because they're shooting, I think, about 16% at 5-on-5 so far. And, when you're just on a roll like that, you're on a roll. And Calgary, as fun as their early going was, they're just not one of those teams. And you're going to end up with games like this in a season like this.
Yeah. And it's, what the thing is, though? It's still October.
It's still October.
There's some long nights in January and February. When it's cold and the nights are long. There's some of those. And I don't think, right, like they're in it right now. And you could, like we said in the last time we were doing the show, you could see it coming. They were getting wins, they were getting bounces and shooting percent. All of it was going in their favor. It just felt like this is going to come home to roost at some point. And then it did. And now it really has. And I guess the question is, how do you is this rock bottom? Are they worse against Utah in 2 nights? This kind of feels like a rock bottom-y kind of thing, getting shut out in Vegas, their fourth line almost running you out of the rink. Okay. The lines go in the full blender in the third period. We'll see. I don't know what to expect. We'll talk about Utah coming up in a couple moments. Want to tell you about Derek Newman. There you see it. Derek Newman Group, real estate, CIR Realty. Buying or selling, let Derek do the work for you. Email address dnewman@cirrealty.ca. Phone number 403-619-6661. If you are selling, if you're buying, if you're even kind of kicking around the idea, I wonder maybe if we want to upgrade, or maybe we're going to get bigger. Maybe we need to get smaller. Well, Derek's the guy. Whether it's your first home purchase or you've sold several, he'll take the time to understand your goals. Finding homes off market is kind of what I'm getting at. Go the extra mile to hunt down some options for buyers, because he's got his fingers into everything. He's got his fingers into everything. He knows it all.
Fingers in the pumpkins.
That's right. 403-619-6661. Great guy and great at what he does. Derek Newman with the Derek Newman Group of CIR Realty. dnewman@cirrealty.ca. We can do. We'll just, again, from one to the other. I said we were going to talk about Utah. We'll go right to it, because I figured on the out of town scoreboard, there's a few things we'll talk about over the course of the program here. But we have, with Alberta Blue Cross, it's something that they call the meaningful moment of the week. So they'd like to wear something that's very touching, heartwarming for Alberta Blue Cross every week. So this feels like a meaningful moment for Alberta Blue Cross. If you're planning a trip, make sure you remember to pack travel insurance from Alberta Blue Cross. When you've got Canada's most trusted travel insurance in your back pocket, you can focus on making the right kind of memories while you're away. The website, ab.bluecross.ca/travel for more information. Let's go to the Sharks and the Hockey Club. This is Utah up 4-1. Kind of looked like Pinder at the game there at the end there.
Yeah, did you see that haircut on the
His
bench?
lady, yeah, it was hot. Yeah, it was real
Oh,
good. So the
oh,
Sharks
man.
improved to 1-7-2 after Utah blows a 4-1 lead with 5 minutes left. Now, what is this with you and this? Because you're a Coyote guy, you're in Arizona, now it's gone to Utah. What?
Well, there were a lot of people in the national media who weren't really familiar with the players on this Utah team, and so they went when they came, streaking out of the gate. It was like, well, who are these guys? And well, they're this
But
is
you've
it
been a
just
Coyotes guy
I know,
for a
I know,
long
I know.
time. It's like
Yeah,
I'm
they're
almost gonna have to unfollow Gould on Twitter because he keeps coming up. I don't know if you know this, but Johnny Kesselring for the
yeah,
cool.
that's Michael Kesselring. But
Whatever it
it's
is.
no, it just people got a little bit too much into the hype. They're a good team. I like the players, but they're not ready to make the playoffs just yet in Utah. They might sneak in, but they're not ready to do anything there. And tonight was rough, and they're kind of following a similar trajectory as the Flames to kick things off this season. A really, really hot start. And now they're kind of back to being what we thought they were. And you're gonna
Yeah.
have a splashy owner. You're gonna have a splashy owner who makes these big trades. I really didn't like that Sergachev trade for them. I thought it was a trade where they gave up more value than they got. But we'll see. We'll see. What is it? Wednesday? That's the next game. It's gonna be a battle between two teams that I think are in very similar spots. And for San Jose, I mean, I sure didn't expect them to put up, what was it, 44 shots
Yeah.
tonight. I mean, even with Utah sliding a little bit, San Jose, I mean, there's a team that, I was talking a little bit about it on social media over the weekend. I mean, I get there are some fans who want the tear it down rebuild, and quite frankly, I've wanted the Flames to make these trades, to trade away some of their core players, but there's doing it to the right extent, and then there's doing what San Jose is doing, and I think they're too far. But we'll see. We'll see if they can maybe start to string some wings together, because as it is right now, you don't want to be going for back-to-back sub 50-point seasons. And 2 years in a row where they've lost their first 9 games.
Yeah, I think it's
That's
back-to-back 9 straight
ugh.
L's out of the
Like
out of the gate.
what does that get you? To me, like, what does that get you?
Well, it gets you a first overall pick,
It does. It does. But
potentially.
you look at it, to me, like, losing this much this quickly, you really have to hope you get that guy. Because if you don't, even if you get 3 first overall picks, you just have to look up in Edmonton. And if you don't get the guy, even if you get good players, you kind of have to get that McDavid type guy. And if Celebrini's that guy, then that's great. But anyway, bit of a sidetrack. But
We'll talk about that guy in Edmonton coming up in a moment.
mhm,
But the first one of the season. So now everyone's got one.
that's right.
Everyone's got to win. Now we can just keep that. Now we're moving. It's the Alberta Blue Cross meaningful moment of the week. Of course, a presentation of Alberta Blue Cross. The information is online, ab.bluecross.ca/travel. Maybe it's a hockey. Maybe you got a big guys trip planned. You're going somewhere for the holidays. Make sure you've got that Alberta Blue Cross travel insurance with you. Focus on making the right kind of memories while you're away. The Oilers, they were beaten by the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. Not a good night for a number of different reasons. They lose the hockey game to the Blue Jackets, who are also not faring so well early this season. But they also lose Connor McDavid. And it was early in the hockey game. McDavid, yeah, I mean, it's if you watch his left foot right there, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to see, and we can roll it a couple of times, but he's tripped at the blue line, and as he slides into the sideboards right there, his right foot gets taken out, and then his left foot looks kind of the ankle does a jam kind of a thing. Almost
Yeah,
not to the same degree. Almost looks like the Drew Doughty injury. Remember
a
how
little
he
bit.
went sliding in and his leg
Yeah.
kind of snapped? I don't know that no one knows what the extent of it is. He's been sent home to Edmonton off of the road trip, so they will continue without him, and he'll get some further evaluation. But you can see there,
Didn't look
he's
good.
done for the
No,
night.
it was the back stick that got him. I saw some people who were like, "Well, Provorov didn't touch him," but it wasn't Provorov; it was Werenski actually right in front of the
Yeah.
bench. And Yeah, I mean, I didn't really see where he would have gotten hurt at first, but then I saw it was Zach Lang on Twitter, the Oilers Nation guy, who had the slow-mo version of the clip, and you can see McDavid's left foot go right in. And so you don't want to see. I don't care if he's Connor McDavid. I don't want to see him get hurt. I'd rather the Oilers lose with him than without him. But honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how they go forward, because with what's been going on in Edmonton this season, their depth. I mean, there was so much talk this offseason about their depth being so vastly improved, and all I've seen is that it's older. Quite frankly, they've lost Dylan Holloway, they've lost Philip Broberg, they've lost Ryan McLeod, and to me, those were their three best sort of young support players who played with some speed, and they've replaced them with a bunch of guys who were over 30. And to me, I mean, when you have, I think I looked at it earlier tonight, and it's Arvidsson, Skinner, Ryan, and a few
Perry.
other of their. Yeah, not. I wasn't including Perry. I was including Connor Brown, but there were 6 there. Hyman as well is in there, and those 5 guys combined have less points than Holloway and Broberg this year.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
it's just like, ugh. So you're kind of wondering what's going to happen in Edmonton, because they can't afford to lose McDavid. They're just not in a position where they can play without him, and so their depth, despite all the offseason prognostications, has really not lived up to that hype. And if it doesn't turn it around, it's going to be tough sledding.
The getting sent home on your own from the road trip is never a good sign. No. Now, I haven't looked. They have games remaining on the road trip. That's all I know. I don't know how many it is. But especially a guy like that, even if you know he's not going to play, he hangs around. Is he private jetting? I'm thinking he maybe take a PJ back to Edmonton. But to send him home would, to me at least, suggest this is something more than just a bump or a bruise. Is it high ankle? Is there a break or something in there? Kind of has a high ankle sprain feel to it. Yeah. And you know what? We talk shit all the time. Game's better when he's healthy. I mean, hope he's not. If he's out, I hope it's not for long.
I think it would have. I think it cheapens. I think it's disingenuous as people who work for a Flames site, who host a Flames show, to say you want to see the Oilers win, because it's obviously not true. But I think it cheapens the sight of seeing the Oilers and hoping, whatever happens, you want to see whatever happens to them. You want to let the chips fall, as they will, not with some outside interference of having them lose their best player. That just doesn't. There's nothing to gain from that in terms of, it's just, you want to see. It just kind of takes away any benefit. Well, not benefit, but it just takes away the ability to see things unfold as they should. And I don't want to see McDavid get hurt, and I hope he's back in reasonable time. But I think it's only one more game on this current road trip. I think it's against Nashville in a couple days, and then Calgary. Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, the rest of the Oilers sure didn't look good tonight. It must have just been, a matter of, okay, well, our captain's gone 30 seconds into this game, and Columbus scores right after, and then they score 5 more. And it was sort of similar to the Vegas Calgary game. They didn't start on the right foot, and then they ended up getting, having those goals piled on top of each other.
I wonder what that does. Professionals, but there's some young guys. When you see him go down and walk down the tunnel, you're always just is he coming back? Where is he? Is he back yet?
Well, it was the mid,
like you say, it was the start of the hockey game.
Yeah, it was the mid-period diagnosis that really caught my eye, that it was so quick that he was ruled out. Like, they didn't even wait until the intermission. It was, I think, with like 4 or 5 minutes left in the first period. So again, I think the game, I think it's better for the Battle of Alberta when McDavid's healthy.
Which again, maybe speaks to the severity when they come out by the 10-12 minute mark and say that he's done for the night. Anyway, that's also what happened tonight in the NHL. We'll take a look at we got the Oilers schedule nailed down. Now we could take a look. The road ahead for Village Honda. More flexibility, more payment options. Explore Honda's new 28-month stretch lease at Village Honda today. Applicable to the new CR-V, HR-V, and Civic. You haven't lived until you've driven a Honda. Gould.
It's true.
Have you driven a Honda?
My family had 4 Hondas as I was growing up.
Wise.
4.
Yeah. And they never let you down.
Those Japanese cars. Japanese cars.
Village Honda. VillageHonda.com. They present the road ahead. So this is the, it's not a long road trip. But they will, from here, make their first visit to the hockey club in Utah, Salt Lake City.
Oof.
Why do you say oof?
Yeah. I don't know.
Not sure.
It'll be an interesting game. I'm much more interested in the New Jersey and Edmonton games just because I think there's some more interesting storylines around them. But yeah, it'll be really interesting just to see the parallels with the two teams that started hot, above expectations, and then going head to head. Very similar in terms of their organizational makeup, even though Utah's a few years ahead. But yeah, we'll see.
It's a lot of and it's now going to be pretty steady. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. This is going to be a bit of a grind here, as it is and as it should be. But it did feel, I think they had one game in about a 6 or 7 day span. They're into it now, and it's on the road for 2, home for 2, back out on the road. I don't know what Montreal or Boston will be by the time they get there, but Montreal is never a fun building, it feels like, for them, and Boston is even more or less fun for the Flames. It feels like the rematch, or the Zadorov and Lindholm.
Yeah. Well, speaking of teams who I would love to see healthy, I would love to watch Patrick Laine play for Montreal, but that hasn't happened just yet this regular season. But that's a team. I mean, I loved Cole Caulfield's decision to switch his jersey number in the offseason, and boy, has he ever been living up to it.
Little karma, maybe.
Like, holy moly, that guy has been on fire. What I think it's like 8 goals in 9 games to start the year, and he looks better than ever in that jersey. It suits him so perfectly, and Montreal's a team that I was actually relatively bullish on heading into the season because I liked their mix of forwards, but losing Laine is kind of a blow. But I still like that mix with Doc and Slavkovsky and Suzuki, and it just feels like they've got a nice little group building. They just need to find the defense, and that's been the really tough part of the start of the season for Montreal, is that their defense has not been as advertised, or as I guess you'd hope. Lane Hutson has been as one-dimensional as a player can get in this NHL, and I don't know if Marty St. Louis, I almost wonder if Marty St. Louis would be better suited as an assistant coach than as a full-fledged head coach with this Montreal team, because they've been giving up chances, I think, more than any other team in the league in the early goings. But that'll be an interesting game. Huberdeau going to Montreal, seeing just all the different things that bubble up out of that. And that'll be an interesting one.
Whatever can inspire.
Whatever can inspire.
I'm all for it. If it gets them all hot and bothered, Mantha as well, right? Yeah. By all means,
have a pregame meal at Le Couche-Tard, and then go to Rue Saint Catherine and get some smoked meat.
What are you all
Feel
from?
it back at home.
What's this? Yeah. I've been to the Barbie Barn in Montreal. Delicious. So good. You like ribs? Do you like?
I went on a February vacation to Laval a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was.
Did you see the Titan?
No, I was. It was the AHL All-Star game. The best thing to do in Laval. Yeah, they had I think there was a Winners next door. Went shop for some local.
Nice,
yeah. It was really nice. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know what? You're smart with your money.
Yeah.
You're not just going to throw it around. If there's a discount option, why not take it?
There were some Huberdeau jerseys, I think.
We'll do some 365 here for our buddies at Bet365, the world's largest sports betting platform. Open an account with Bet365 today. It's a huge range of markets, and when you get the app, Nation promo code, put it in there. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
It's right there. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So looking ahead to tomorrow's schedule of the games that are on there, this will be the final visit of Marc-Andre Fleury, while we're doing the French thing. Marc-Andre Fleury back to Pittsburgh. He was a longtime Penguin, Mike.
It's true.
Yeah. They drafted him, and he played there for a long time. Had some success. Couple cups, I believe. Something like that.
Drafted 213 picks before Dustin Wolf, respectively. Not in the same year, but
not the same year at all. No.
16 years before.
Yeah. So there you see the Wild are favored. Will the Penguins be inspired? The Penguins are terrible right now.
Oh God, they're horrible.
They were no good when they came to town. They've only gotten worse since then. It just feels like the wheels, if they haven't already, are about to fall right off. This does have all the makings of a wild victory, playing for Fleury back in Pittsburgh. They won't want him to lose to the Penguins, and the Penguins look terrible. And I'm guessing first game back after a road trip. To me, all signs point towards a wild victory here.
Yeah, Dean, I don't think the Penguins are driving a Honda. I think they're
No,
I think they're driving an old rusty circus tent on wheels.
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
some jalopy, some they're left on
Yeah.
the side of the road, smoke coming out from under
Well,
the hood.
Mike
Disaster.
Sullivan, I mean, I saw at practice today. He has Malkin and Crosby on the same line. I mean, that's something that I don't really remember the Penguins ever doing. I mean, you hear about McDavid and Draisaitl, the nuclear option in Edmonton. That was never really an option in Pittsburgh, but it seems to have come back or come into favor the last couple weeks. I mean, you look at that second line they were running at practice today. I think it was Kevin Hayes and Anthony Beauvillier and Jesse Puljujärvi. I mean, that sort of throws you back to when Dick Tarnstrom was leading them in scoring. I mean, speaking of Edmonton Pittsburgh connections, I mean, oh my god. Yeah. Well, it's just like, I mean, I get it. Like at a certain point, what do you do if you're Mike Sullivan and you have, this? I mean, they traded their top prospect to get Winnipeg's top prospect in Rutger McGroarty, our favorite name to say, and he didn't really stick around very long. He's back in the AHL. And just a complete mess. I don't know what Pittsburgh's gonna do.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much you can do when you have that much salary, and those guys have not aged well, or they're just at the point where, what do you expect? Letang he's been past due for a while, and Carlson just looks like his give a crap meter's broke. He just doesn't seem to care one way or the other. Anyway.
It's kind of like the old Iginla, Bouwmeester, Tanguay, Kiprasov Flames in a way. I mean, that's kind of what it is, except they won cups. That's quite honestly what it is. So I guess there's going to be a little bit more impetus behind ownership and behind the fan base to have those guys stay in Pittsburgh forever. And so, but ultimately it's just going to delay the inevitable. But what do they care, right? Because it's all about preserving a legacy that is not necessarily maintained if you send these guys off to play in Columbus or Utah. Like, I don't know. I don't envy Kyle Dubas. I wouldn't have signed up to be the GM there, quite honest, but it is what it is.
I would have. So much money.
Sure.
You wouldn't have to shop at Winners. You could maybe
you can go. I don't know. You could probably have gone anywhere.
What's a fancy store? I just see that. I don't even know that's because
Dillard's.
Is it? Maybe. Sure.
J.C. Penney.
Yeah, maybe. There you go. Promo code Nation. Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So I guess there's not a whole lot to do. We talked about the line swapping for the Flames as they go into this next game. As far as lineup, there's not a whole lot to do. I had texted you. Jake Bean scores in the Carolina game and then has sat the last two games. He didn't play versus Winnipeg on the weekend or tonight as Hanley came back in. Make no mistake, they're not a Jake Bean away from beating Vegas tonight. I just wonder we're now at a point where everyone giving credit to the Flames. What a great start. All this, man, Huska is pushing all the right buttons. All right. He's got to coach him up now. I don't know what is at his disposal, but I'm curious to see how the coach and coaches approach the start in 2 nights' time.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly guys on this team who probably wouldn't be on other teams. Let's just put it that way. And I'm curious to see how they handle things. Obviously, there was all that hullabaloo about the Coronado thing that went on today and in the last couple of days. And I mean, I think it's easy to forget that Matt Coronado's 21 and that he was brought out of college. I would argue, if not on time, maybe a little bit early. He's young for a winger who's 5'10" and has a little bit of growing to do. I think there's no reason to really panic about him being in the American League, but I can certainly see the justification for, say, bringing back up a guy like Jacob Pelche or playing Adam Klapka a bit more. These aren't things that are going to fix things. They're not going to save the season. They're not going to instantly turn this team around. But at a certain point, I mean, I get it. It's October. It's early. You can't write off a season, even if the prognosticators say that this team was never going to make the playoffs. But what is there to gain by having, Kevin Rooney in over a young guy or a what's his name? Joel Hanley and over I was going to say Matt Bartkowski, Joel Hanley and over Ilya Solovyov or Jeremy Poirier or Kevin or
you know what, more I guess I'm more curious for a guy like Mantha, who tonight was and it's not just tonight. He had the great start, and it's slowly, it's not new. This has been his career. He wows you some nights, and then you wonder, well, where is that? How do you go from there to where you're at? For Mantha tonight, 14-27 in ice time, 0 shots on goal, 0 hits. I just
what
it's
number
game
was
9, but by all means, you got a 1-year deal. We brought you in here. You can have some popcorn tonight. We're going to bring in Klapka. We're going to bring in somebody with some energy and see how they fare. You can be a spectator tonight.
So basically what you're saying is that Mantha ended up -3 on the expected shots on goal tonight. Because
I'm definitely not saying that.
wasn't that the whole thing coming into the year, that he was going to get 300 shots on goal? Or three shots per game?
Yeah,
Oof,
sure.
I mean, I never really understood much of that, but I mean, you're just trying to, it's the same thing as he's in the best shape of his life. It's, what are you? But we're at the end of October, and this is Anthony Mantha's MO. And I was honestly surprised that Vegas traded a 2nd-round pick for him last year. And I wasn't surprised when they healthy scratched him. And now I wouldn't be surprised if Calgary healthy scratches him. And it's really nothing, I guess, innately wrong on the part of the player. It's just that he is being paid this amount to be a player who you would expect to be in the lineup every night, but I don't think he's necessarily earned the right to be in the lineup every night. And I think you're sort of bang on there. There are other guys who I would rather see at this point, and it does almost feel like we're at the point where we're starting to run out the clock. It reminds me a little bit of Troy Brouwer's first season in Calgary, where he was playing with Tkachuk. And for a few games there at the start, I mean, he scored, I think, against Edmonton in the season opener, and he kept scoring a little bit. And everybody's like, wow, maybe this guy's all right. And then I think he went maybe 30 games without a goal, and you just kind of realized the benefit that the Flames have here is they don't have 3 years left. They just have this one. And
and the other guy that I thought of as I was watching this thing, and it was like not the same not the same expectation level or anything, but it's got some James Neal feel to it as well.
A little bit.
Do you give a shit? Could you get just try? We know you can score. We've seen you score. Would you mind just trying a little bit? And it's which is why I wonder for guys like Pelche and Coronado or Klapka or whoever, it's like, so this guy's in, right? And I'm okay. So I wonder for the coach where that accountability starts to come in a bit.
I don't think he's like, again, there are people in the comments. I don't think he's as bad as James Neal, and I don't think he's as bad as Troy Brouwer. And his contract is obviously not nearly as bad as those guys were. This was a 1-year flyer. Everybody knew what Anthony Mantha was. Everybody knew what they were getting into with Anthony.
What it really is, though, it's just watching a guy who seems disinterested.
Oh, sure.
While somebody else could probably. And the thing is, the person who would be coming in probably is not capable of what he would be when he's playing well. But it's just the laissez-faire, whatever. There was no part of him that was going to drag the Flames back into a battle tonight.
A bit Alex Vegas team. A bit Alex Chason-ish tonight, I would say. There you go. 1 year, 39, big guy.
Is Chason big?
Yeah. Yeah, he was like 6'4". But he didn't play big, and Mantha didn't play big tonight. That's the whole thing.
Sure didn't. Sure did not. It's been one of those nights when people are, I can't believe we lost Schwind. How's Conroy doing? We lost. No, Schwind had 2 points against us. I didn't think there'd be these Schwind comeuppance, but yet here we are. One of those.
I can't believe they lost. I still can't believe they lost Glenn Godden.
Yeah. Tough one for sure. We'll do a couple things before we go, but let's do Jack wants me to do one of these. He's very crafty, that Jack, without even saying anything. Just kind of gives me the old poke in the ribs. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing, new locations opening. You need to get more customers and keep them coming back. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Maximize sales by making it easy to process orders in-house with a kiosk or a mobile POS for tableside orders and online ordering for takeout and delivery. Go online, check it out yourself, squareup.com, to see why Square is big in restaurants. I love tapping. Boop. Would you just like to tap? Yeah, I would.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you see that? You see that whole thing this week about Helen Mirren was upset that Kurt Cobain never got to live to see GPS?
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
I think Kurt Cobain would have loved to use Square.
Was she? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what she was going on about. She was just like, I think he would have really loved to see that little blue icon going up the street as you walk down on Google Maps. It was weird. I don't know what she was on.
You're a fountain of interesting knowledge and info.
You ever read the news, Boom?
The Helen Mirren news? No, that in fairness, I did kind of.
She's a treasured, Boom.
Is she?
Yeah.
Would you?
Whoa, Boomer, Dean. That's not appropriate, Dean.
Sorry. We'll take a look at some of the some burning questions. Do you want to answer some questions?
Sure, I'd love to.
I bet you would. I knew you would. Hey, there's Mace coming in with a bit of the super chat, a couple bucks. We're gonna have some details about the super chat. I think everybody thinks, oh, what are you guys? Are you buying a bunch of drugs with your super chat money? We're gonna be telling you about the super chat money. So just trust it's going to a good place. All right, it's not going into the Pinder Mushroom Fund or anything. Let's get back to the plan, Conroy. Rebuild, says Mace. $2. Thanks.
That's not a question, though.
No, it's, you know what, when you step in with the super chat, you get to say your piece. Maybe it's a question, maybe it's a comment. I don't feel like he's strayed away from.
No.
Right. I think some people got scared off with the Craig Conroy might be looking at adding a centerman. Well, the Flames have been looking to add a centerman since 1989. That's not necessarily breaking news. I don't think that they were swayed by. I think they were. Hey, it's good to see the team play well. It's better than watching them lose and get shit kicked all the time. But I don't think that they were fooled at all by what they were seeing through the first 4 or 5 games. So I don't know that they diverted away from the rebuild. But it's pretty clear. It's gonna take some time. Just got to be patient.
Yeah, go get Elias Pettersson. Like, come on, I don't know. Well, that's just like, what do you want? Like, you're gonna go get a center. Okay. It's such a broad thing to sort of complain about. I mean, if you go and trade for David Kampf, then I'll be like, okay, well, what are you doing that? But you got to have a team. And right now, I think it's pretty evident watching these Flames. I don't know if they necessarily have enough players who are worth watching on a lot of nights. I mean, it's not even a matter of winning and losing. It's a matter of, I think they maybe even need more players just to have around as developmental chips. What are you gaining by having, Kevin Rooney if you can have, I don't know, some 23-year-old center who another team doesn't have room for instead, right? Like that's sort of where I go to when I'm thinking. Well,
the name that was kind of being kicked around was Peyton Krebs, because they bring in Ryan McLeod off of the I'm having a stroke apparently. Offer sheet, or Holloway to say
no, it was
in the trade for Benson or whatever the hell.
No, Matt Savoy.
Anyway, fuck. So McLeod is there, and it's like, well, now all of a sudden Peyton Krebs, he was a big part of the Eichel deal. Now he's being slid down. He's pissed off about it. He's young. Okay, so if it's a guy like Peyton Krebs, are people going to be happy with that? I don't know.
I don't care. Like, just give up
it would be that kind of a situation where it'd be a younger player who would come in. And the fact that it's not happened is probably maybe shows you what they think about giving up high picks for Peyton Krebs at this point.
If you give up a 4th round pick for Peyton Krebs, who cares? That's my take. I mean, I think back to the last time that the Flames were in this position, and I think they gave up like a 4th round pick for Joe Colborn. and they gave up like a 5th round pick for Chris Russell, and who cares? Like,
I think that the talk was spending some real draft capital,
yeah,
perhaps
exactly.
moving a first. And I mean, if
But
a Jack Eichel type becomes available, then yeah, you get in there and
yeah,
you take some swings. But I
for
don't
my
know that I've
yeah,
heard anything resembling an Eichel level player that's become available.
no. And from my standpoint, when has Craig Conroy ever done anything in a deal so far in his tenure to indicate that he would be comfortable giving up a 1st round pick for a guy like Peyton Krebs?
Yeah.
That just doesn't make any sense. It's a complete non sequitur when I just sort of look at the entire stretch. I mean, I if I was thinking about it more serious, a guy like Peyton Krebs, the market value is sort of like a 3rd or a 4th round pick, and at a certain point, you got to sort of move some assets around. You can't make 15 picks a year. I mean, they might do it once or twice, but I think they have holes that they can fill for the now as well as in the future.
Attaboy William, $2 super chat right into the super chat. You guys aren't buying a bunch of beer with those super chats. Extend or trade Rasmus Anderson. Vancouver, Toronto would love to keep him. There again, the league's got a bunch of teams in it, and there's a bunch of teams that would like to have a guy like Rasmus Anderson. The cap hit is right. He is everything you want in a player. He's got some bite. He's got some edge. He's a good skater. He can score. I feel like there's some leadership qualities there for sure. I asked you the question directly the last time we did the show. Is there a world where you can sign him long term and feel like you're going to be in a spot where he's a contributor and life is good and everything? It feels like I think people that follow teams and fans, you always overvalue the players that are on that team. I feel like the return would be substantial for Rasmus Anderson in the right deal.
Well,
And
yeah, I mean,
I think it's not. What would you go 3 years, 5 years down the road? It's not what is Rasmus Anderson? What is a first and a prospect? What is that going to be included into the mix that you've got? Maybe there's a younger Rasmus Anderson that's from that deal. Maybe you have a Rasmus Anderson already in the system that's going to emerge in Brestevich or whoever it might be. I don't like the thoughts of watching the team without him. I think he's a big part. He and Weegar are a big part of this team right now. I'm sure Coleman is, but I feel like I see it more from Weegar and Anderson on a nightly basis. To pluck him out it'd be tough for sure. You would need to hit a home run, but I think you probably could.
I think you could. And I think we've seen the difference in returns exemplified in the last couple of years where the Flames, they traded Noah Hannafin at the deadline without a contract in place. And they get a deal that I would describe as okay. They get a 1st round pick. They get a conditional 3rd round pick that doesn't hit. They get Miramanov, who I liked last year, and this year hasn't been very good, but we'll see. Versus I look back to when Ottawa traded for Jacob Chikrin, who had an extra year on his deal, and they get a 1st that ends up being the Arizona, now Utah. They got a 1st that ended up being number 12 overall. And they got 2 second-round picks on top of that. And that was a deal that people at the time were saying, well, Ottawa should have had to give up 2 firsts, and they didn't. And I would still posit that it was a pretty good return. But if you're Calgary and you're looking at Anderson and saying, well, is there a way that I can get the number 12 pick for this guy? And I don't know if the circumstances will arise in that way. I don't know if there's a team that's as desperate as Ottawa was at that point that has that asset to give up, because those assets are hard to find. But if that's a deal that you can get, then, I think you kind of have to consider it. And I see there's people saying, the amount of salary they would have to retain wouldn't be worth it. Well, you don't necessarily have to retain salary. You can if you want to. Or, if it makes more sense, you can take back a contract. You can do whatever is necessary. I mean, it worked out for them with Andrei Kuzmenko pretty well. And that's a guy who they're looking at maybe flipping this year too. So, but yeah, for me, I mean, look, they're tough to watch already right now. I think early hot streak aside, taking Rasmus out is going to make them less entertaining. At the same time, I watch him and I am reminded a lot of watching Hannafin last year and knowing now what we know, that Hannafin, I think, was really looking to play his way into a big contract somewhere else.
Somewhere else, for sure.
That's kind of what I see with Rasmus, just to a certain extent.
We'll do some rapid fire to get through some things here. Joel wants to know how many years till we can realistically move Huberdeau. Joel, it's just you're just gonna have to live with it, barring an injury. This is gonna be you're in for the long haul here.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Long deal. It's a long deal.
Sorry, Joel.
Pizza guy, do you mix up the D pairings next game? Maybe even rock Anderson and Uyghur together. I like that pair. I don't like what's below them. That's when you're taking Miramanov, Bean, Pahal. I like Pahal. I like what he brings every night, but he's probably the best of that group. I'm with you. I don't know what Miramanov is. I just gonna let it kind of play itself out. But you can bring Bean back in, I guess. There again, you got a lot of guys. You got some options. I don't know that anything tonight wasn't going to make a difference.
I've liked all those guys individually, but I don't think there's something like at various points, but not, as a cohesive unit. There's not a unit.
You know what?
There.
The one, I'll give Ball. I'll say Ball, but I think he's kind of above that, right? He's not in the waiver class.
A little bit.
I haven't minded him. He's been
fine.
Spinning a little bit, but he's been all right. Jeremy, any other lines you'd have gone with as part of the blender? Question 2, what was said by Hill to make Hubie laugh when they're losing 5-0? I don't know.
I don't even remember. I was sort of playing 2048 on my cell phone at that point.
You're right. Yeah. Jack wanted to start early. Well, Doogie. Listening to the radio sounded like Zary was the only one dangerous again. Can we have 3 more of them? Be all right. Yeah, Zary. Zary's real. Zary feels very real and a very big part of this team moving forward.
He was moving left to right on those radios better than anybody else tonight.
Yeah.
Better than anybody else.
Why is it Boomer's always around for the losses? LOL.
Do you think Boomer enjoys this is the question? Do you think Dean
Boomer was kind of ready for it tonight?
Yeah.
That we're talking about a loss is not necessarily has Boomer stunned as a developer tonight.
We could be doing something else. I mean, it's,
I'm not talking baseball, I'll tell you that.
I don't know.
Do the Flames practice passing the puck to each other like ever? I don't know. I think you're being snarky, DC.
I think that's it's a little rude. I'm sure they got some zone, time with each other. They got morning skating.
And probably the most important I'm seeing here of the questions that have come in, probably the best one of the night goes to GeoTubers Rock. What's the best ratio of salt to water for brining pork chops? For me, it's just kind of a standard thing. I would hope that as we sit here tonight, I would hope we're all on the same page. If we're making a turkey, if we got a whole chicken, or if you even take that chicken and you've cut it up into pieces, if you're having some pork chops, we're not just taking them out of the package and firing them on the grill, are we? We're not taking them out of the package and just putting them into a fry pan or into the oven. We're not doing that, right?
No.
We're taking a glass bowl. Don't use plastic, all right? That's how people get sick and die. Salmonella, it's here to kill you. Glass bowl, cold water. And then you know what I do? GeoTubers Rock. It's like so much when you're in the kitchen. It's kind of a judge. If it tastes right, that's the noise you got to make when you do it too. Yeah, it's about right. It's kind of like what you would gargle if you have kind of one of those things. Well, maybe not that much. Just so it's got just enough salt, so it's like, there's salt in that water, and then you're going to brine your poultry or your pork. Because I know, we're not doing that. Just taking them right out of the package and putting them right in the grill. We're not doing that. Right.
Where do you source your salt, Dean? What's the best salt?
Kind of a Sifto guy.
Yeah. You don't get like the graters, the big ones from Costco, the pink stuff.
Oh, I do. I've heard that the Himalayan salt's not great for you. Yeah, it's all marketing. Those damn Himalayans, they're all like, hey, get a load of our salt. And then everybody else, I'm not sure your salt's so shit hot. I'll be honest.
Salt is salt. It's all just salt,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Because then there's you got the pink salt and all of this sort of thing. I don't know. But no, I do. The only problem I find though is if I do like the grade, you'll get some big pieces of salt in there, depending on how good the
yeah.
grater is. If you've got a subpar grinder, I mean, is what you're gonna have some big chunks of salt in there, and it could be a little too salty if the meal already has got a little bit of salt. If you know if you got your shit together in the kitchen, you don't need to be adding salt at the table. You really don't. Cook it right. Just cook it right. Season it as you cook it. And then when you serve it up on the table, do you need salt and pepper? No, I'm good. Don't need it. No, it's good.
What about other seasonings, Dean?
Well, what are we making?
Well, it wasn't the question about pork chops, Dean.
Pork chops, brining, and then I'm trying to think of what I've got. Always pepper, right? Always fresh cracked pepper on there. With the pork, I've got this great lemon pepper that I enjoy.
Oh,
such a good lemon pepper. I'll put that on everything. I could eat bowls of that shit. So good.
Oof.
Now you're oofing. Is this a bad oof or a good?
No, it's a good oof.
Yeah,
it's
I like
good oof.
Yeah.
No, it's the best.
You can over season though. You got to be careful.
You got to be careful. What do you think of boiling ribs, Dean?
I don't do it. I think it's like you're kind of saying, I'm going to take a bunch of the flavor that's in here and just pour it down the drain.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get rid of a bunch of the flavor in here. Put them in the oven.
Yeah.
Put them in some tin foil and put them in some oven in the oven. But then, they're kind of wet and soggy. Well, put them back in the oven because the oven's going to dry. It's going to dry it out. It'll be okay. It'll all be okay. And then you can season it. You can souse it. Well, that goes back into the oven. I've gone away altogether from the grill when it comes to my ribbon. If I'm ribbon, it's oven and then maybe finish on the grill for some nice, some grill marks. But I'm mostly I'm ribbon in the oven is what I'm doing.
Oof,
I'm doing the oven ribbon. Yeah.
I think that should be. I think that should be the new barn burner trip this year. Is just a trip to Dean's kitchen.
Well, I'll tell you what. The next Afterburner, if it's another 5 Cobb shit burger, I will be in the kitchen. We'll be making wings or something, and not talking about Anthony friggin' Mantha or whatever the hell it is.
Thanks, player who doesn't stick to the ribs, eh? Yeah, that's Anthony Mantha.
Thanks everybody for chiming in on the comments, having some fun with us tonight as well. Thanks to the sponsors. Next one coming up will be on Wednesday. I believe it's Pinder and somebody else doing the Afterburner on Wednesday. But before we close tonight, I think that maybe some fans, longtime fans, will recognize the face. They will recognize the name. Gus Thorson, longtime equipment guy. If it's not the equipment manager, but he was more than that. Passing away on the weekend. This one certainly caught me off guard. I think caught a lot of people off guard. Gus was when I first started working at the radio station, and you're just around the rink all the time. You were never there when Gus wasn't. There was never a time that existed. Sunday morning, it did not matter. Gus was there. If somebody had to, we're out of chewing gum. We need some shampoo. My laces don't fit. Gus was all over it, and great guy. And then he moved on from the Flames, but was still doing equipment stuff. I know you'd see him out at Winsport at the shop that they had out there. But good guy, Gus Thorson, passing away on the weekend. So thoughts to his family and to those with the Flames. He touched a lot of people. So miss you, Gus. That is damn too bad. So thoughts and prayers going out there. T's and P's as we bring tonight's episode and edition of Afterburner to a close. Gould, good job again tonight. Well done.
Thanks. I came dressed as a pumpkin.
You did. That's what somebody noticed. Yeah. Did you did you get a haircut since the last time we saw you?
I did. I was getting a little
tightened up.
I was getting a little unruly. I was getting a little unwieldy. I got these sweatshirts on for like 6 for $60 or something.
So thrifty.
It was very thrifty, and
Yeah.
but I have like a lavender one that I was wearing, and
Amazing.
I wore it to the haircut, and so I don't think I'm going to be wearing that one
Oh, you can't.
again
Yeah.
for it's just so itchy. I don't
Oh,
know.
you can't do it. Yeah.
You can't do it. I mean, it's not as bad as if it was Pinder, because that would be, he gets a haircut, and I don't think they can use those the robes again. I think they have to dispose of those ones.
Yeah. He told me the other day we were talking, and I said we were talking about Brent Burns and the Iron Man streak that he's on and all that. I said, well, you would relate to him because he's hairy and likes snakes and crocodiles and that kind of stuff. And Pinder says, well, I have hair, but I'm not hairy. It's like, what the
He's
hell are
not?
you talking? You got this beard and a mullet, like there's hair everywhere. It's like,
Yeah.
he just loves to debate. He
He's
loves to fight.
he's he was wrong.
He's
Yeah.
hairy.
He's a little bit on the more matted side, I would say, but he's in the back it's kind of folded over a little bit, I think. But yeah, rough times over in that household, I think.
Don't do it, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad with the hair that you didn't do what Kent Wilson did. I
Yeah,
was floored. He had that like the long flowing, the one
Yeah.
length kind of. Guys like me dream about that shit. And
Well,
he just lopped it right off.
I met Alex Tangay up at West Edmonton Mall a couple of years ago. I was doing the commentary for the Brick Tournament, and we have the same birthday. We have the exact same birthday.
Well,
Me
yeah.
and Tangs were, I think 23 years apart or something. And
Mhm.
but I had just gotten my head shaved, and so there's a photo on my phone of the two of us just looking like bowling pins.
Yeah.
And it was not my finest moment. I was wearing a pretty bad collared shirt. I didn't get a very good deal on that one.
Poor Tangs, he hung on to it as long as he could.
Yeah. Yeah.
The odd time where he'd get into a scrum or whatever and the bucket would come off. It's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Not
Remember Matt Stagens last year with the Flames, and in one of his last games, he had that bucket come off, and he kind of looked like Mr. Clean. He was just kind of like just sort of skating around.
Getsy kind of hung on there near the end.
Yeah. Not great.
Well, that's good. We're, perfect.
That's right.
We're follically
I got great
infallible.
genes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Did you get those jeans at Winners?
That'll do it.
No, I'm
See you, buddies. That's enough.